How you going, Duckman here? Welcome today to Weekend Warriors again. So I've got a well-known Weekend Warrior to meet. Nick Mead is from Hawkesbury Rugby Club, and he's got cerebral palsy. He plays sport, and he's a person who can talk on behalf of disadvantaged people and the struggles they have. Explain a little bit about cerebral palsy, and I'll learn a lot more out of this today. Hopefully, Nick, how you going?
Yeah, good mate. How you going?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. You can hold the mic if you want.
Yeah, no worries.
So, I don't know a lot about cerebral palsy. I know that, in general, for most people, from what I understand, most or all people, it affects them generally at birth, affects the brain pattern and how it affects your muscle movements and everything like that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I got it from birth, from the actual time that actually came out, and it was diagnosed when I was 18 months old. They normally notice it when there's a difficulty or delay in walking and movement. So I took a long time to walk, so they checked me out, and it turned out that I had cerebral palsy. So I have, it's called hemiplegia, where it's down my left side. And it sort of mainly affects my arm and my leg, and a little bit of my neck. Yeah. So I've had a few operations, and basically been trying to get better, or trying to make my life easy since I was sort of 18 months old, and been to lots of different therapists and doctors, and yeah.
So were operations beneficial for you? Did you notice a difference after you had those things happen? So
Yeah.
And did it help you physically? Do they try to do the motor things, or do they work on the sensory and try to help correct the nerves and everything when they do something like that?
No, it's mainly muscular wise. So the first one didn't go really well. So the first one was when I was 6, and then the ones that I had when I was 11 and 17 were by the same doctor, and they worked on my Achilles tendons and my calf muscles, strengthening them and lengthening them, so helping me to walk flat. So I used to walk on my toes.
Yeah.
So that they actually really helped. And the one that I had when I was 17 sort of was the final go, because it's really hard to fix, or not to fix, really hard to sort of work on the muscles after you're a fully grown adult.
Yeah.
So when I was 17, they finally got my foot flat, and I was able to start walking in a way that caused me less pain.
Yeah.
Which is the main benefit, really, the main goal that my parents and the doctors had.
Yeah. So how old are you now, Nick?
I'm 26.
Yeah.
I'm 27.
Yeah. So when did you notice that this? So you said your parents noticed when you're about 18 months this was affecting you, weren't walking properly and stuff like that. When did you notice it got to its worst stage where it really affected you? Like, obviously you had all the dramas when you were at high school. You would have got picked on a lot and all that sort of stuff. And
yeah, there was a lot of picking on. Yeah, mainly happened in primary school, actually. The picking on. The worst that people treated me is actually just out in the street, to be honest. So when I'm having a bad day, and I'm limping a lot, and my left hand goes into like a claw position,
yeah.
Then I get stared at and sort of talked down to and that sort of stuff out in the street.
Yeah.
It's actually, I thought it was pretty bad when I was a kid, but the most pain I've got is when I've been an adult.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like, it's a little bit of a misconception, is because it's not technically a degenerative disease. People think that, and the doctors often thought, not anymore I think, but they used to think that it would just sort of stay the same.
Yeah.
But the same thing with playing footy. If you play footy for 27 years, and your body's going to feel it. So it's the same sort of thing as I walk with a limp, and I'm in pain every day, and then after 27 years, my body certainly feels it, and get a bit of nerve pain and all that sort of stuff that I didn't get when I was a kid. And yeah.
I can relate to the pain thing. So I've been playing football and stuff since I was like 9 years old. I'm 43 now, and I look like I've been hit by a car. Some days it gets pretty bad. So I imagine that the cerebral palsy gets like that as well. When you get more fatigue, it becomes more pronounced and obviously more painful, and So how do you remedy the pain, and what do you do? There's obviously different treatment methods and stuff you can do to manage it, drugs and
Yeah.
physiotherapy and all this good sorts of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. So I do a lot of physio,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of massages.
Yeah.
So like deep tissue massages, that sort of stuff. And when I was younger, I had a lot of Botox injected into my muscles to sort of help loosen them. And the problem with cerebral palsy is it makes your muscles really tight. So often, no matter how much you stretch them, it's still incredibly tight. There's a lot of tearing and stuff. So with the massaging and the physiotherapy, it's designed to sort of help lessen the tightness and the tearing.
Yeah.
And I often, day to day, I walk around with a bag full of taping. So just like I tape myself like I would for a footy match.
Yeah.
And yeah, I take some medication as well. But I try quite hard not to depend heaps on the medication.
Yeah.
But yeah, so taping, physio, medication, and massaging pretty much.
So the Botox, like, it's got botulism in it, which they use that basically paralyse when they put in people's face to paralyse the muscle to stop extra. Well, from what I understand as well, that stops wear and tear or whatever, and muscle from aging. Is that so? That was what the theory behind that is, and treating.
Yeah, so it was the Botox went into my legs.
Yeah.
And it went into the muscles that were the tightest, and so sort of weaken them, and then once I would start walking, start to try and get them into better shape and getting used to actually sort of being a bit looser.
Yeah.
Because what's actually behind cerebral palsy is the brain isn't controlling the muscles the way that a standard brain would. So it's sort of trying to bypass that and actually getting the muscles to react differently by using the Botox.
Yeah. So how has cerebral palsy affected you from a sporting point of view, being able to play rugby and other sorts of sports?
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't help that I'm half Kiwi, so when I was younger, I just wanted to be an All Black, which obviously didn't turn out. But so I played my first season of rugby when I was in year 5 for Beecroft, and I wasn't able to play for the next few years because I had operations and the CP it didn't work out with it and stuff, and what's really hard is that there's often two extreme reactions. Either when people find out I have CP, either they like treat me like
you're a complete crippled and you
can't, or like I made of glass, you know, like they just like let me through the fence or whatever. Like this is just in other games as well. Like I played basketball for a little bit, and they just let me through the fence or whatever, and they just treat me like I'm just not capable of anything, or they just refuse to address it at all and sort of aren't keen on having me play, which is really quite upsetting and really quite difficult to deal with, to be honest. Both of those scenarios actually. But when I was playing for Beecroft in year 5, I had a coach, a guy called Serge Gonzalez, who really like didn't have either of those reactions and really wanted me to get involved. And what he did really well was, because realistically there are some things at rugby training that I probably shouldn't do. And even though I wasn't able to do those things, he made sure I was connected in the team and gave me stuff to do why I couldn't do that. And then he actually had a team talk. Like he got me out of the way, and then he took he sat the team down and explained to them about my condition, about how I could be a part of things and make sure they include me in things.
Yes.
And it was, I'll never forget that actually. And he sort of gave me hope that actually when I was able to play again, would be included.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to play rugby for quite a while after that. It wasn't until I was in year 10. I went to a school called Arden.
Yeah.
In Epping, and I played number 8 for them. And it was because of his inclusion when I was in year 5 that I felt like I was able to go and try and be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I played in Arden for a few years, and then wasn't able to play because my cerebral palsy got all sort of screwed up and sort of a bit. It was quite painful after I left high school as I was getting into the adult years. So learning how to cope with that cerebral palsy.
And you were still growing and developing and acting,
Absolutely.
obviously.
Yeah. And then last year I was able to get back to it and play for Hawkesbury, which was I never thought I'd be able to do. I was stoked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and you would have had a good experience last year playing. Well, COVID didn't help anything out, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it was because we had a 7-game season.
Yeah.
But it was a great introduction, really. I think there was a little bit of misconception at the beginning. That I think a couple of people weren't sure what I was able to do. And I think once I felt comfortable in speaking up and just saying, actually, I could do A, B, and C, that it was a little bit, people got a bit more relaxed, I think.
Yeah.
And especially after I got some game time.
Yeah.
That people were saying, I actually like it, and I'm fine to give it a go. And I got. I mean, do you want me to tell a story or?
Yeah, tell some stories. Yeah.
So I got in the first minute of my first training session, I got injured.
Yeah.
And I just thought, maybe I'm not meant to do this, and maybe it's just not going to work out. And I spent a few weeks sort of rehabilitating, and someone landed on me in a ruck.
Yeah.
In my first ruck in like 10 years, right? So, and then so it sort of gave me that resolve to I worked back to get running and sprinting and getting back to training, and in the meantime that the club was really supportive, and especially like Steve and Terry were really supportive and checking up on me, and then when I got back there with with the team and stuff, and everyone was so supportive, I felt like this is a good club for me I feel safe here and to give this a go, especially once I started feeling comfortable in just saying straight up, actually I can do this, don't worry about me, like I want to give it a go.
Yeah. That's one thing I really like about rugby union. I can resonate because I played league and I played soccer and different stuff as well. And soccer, to be honest with you, I'm too fat and slow. I'm going back to play again, but you need really a particular body type. You need to be really between 75 to 85 kilos, 5'7" to 5'10" or 11. If you're a big guy, it's all right as long as you're not over 100 kilos, because it's all about speed and agility. Rugby league, really, they want people about 6 foot, 6'4", probably about 100, 110 kilos.
Yeah.
Other than that, unless you're a playmaker and smaller, it's all good. And rugby union, they don't care, big, small, fat, whatever, it's all good. So I still drag my ass around on the field and play. So it's very inclusive like that. But I suppose from my site, what I've seen, like I didn't know about cerebral palsy, I don't know very much about it. So, and people do discriminate and make fun of things they don't know about, and because they don't know, it's unknown. So if something's unknown, people are like, oh, that's a bit different. So
yeah, absolutely.
Do you come across it, or have you come across a lot of that sort of stuff in your life? Well, it might not necessarily be discrimination, but people, they're not inclusive because they don't understand what you're going through and what your limitations are or aren't, so they just put it in a too hard basket.
Yeah, look, I think I certainly, especially on the street, like just from random people, and especially when I start playing sports, so if I start playing for a team or something, they just assume that I'm just not capable of anything, pretty much, like I'm just there and I'm just going to be sort of a novelty player.
Yeah.
they also assume, like, not that this is a bad thing, because I work in disability, and so this isn't a bad thing to me, but like they automatically assume that I'm quite severely mentally disabled.
Yeah.
I've come across that a lot, and they just like just try to sort of dumb down conversations for me, which I don't know, it doesn't make me feel.
It's a bit patronising.
Well, it's just such a patronising, such a strange assumption, I think.
Yeah.
Because disability, like for the disability community, the word disability isn't a bad word. Like it means like there's such a range, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 100% resonate with that. I've got Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, and without going into it too much, it's a neuropathy thing, so it affects the nerves and that in my feet and hands and arms and all sorts of stuff, and it'll get gradually worse to the stage where I could potentially end up in a wheelchair. So what I should do is probably try to lose weight, not be a big fat dude, but at the moment not going so good. But in general, probably if you go through the population, you'll find lots of different people have some different sort of ailment. As I'm getting a bit older, I'm seeing lots of my friends find out, have high blood pressure, have these different heart problems and stuff. But you don't see, and people don't talk about that as a kid. They just think, you've got a weakness and you're different, so we're gonna give you a hard time, which is not good.
No, 100%. Yeah, and I just think, like most of us lived like 80, 90, and the chances that a lot of us are going to get a disability or a condition is fairly high. So I just don't see why you wouldn't just treat everyone with respect, and like why would you look down on someone with a disability when it could be you in 10 years?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So cerebral palsy is something that is like, when I look at CMT, I can see it it'll go through stages. I can feel it physiologically every once in a while. It'll get gradually a little bit worse over a period of time. It goes through stages as it gets more and more severe, I suppose. So does cerebral palsy get like that for you, or have you checked it out enough to find out if it's going to be what happens? Or
well, the difficulty with cerebral palsy at the moment, and this was a topic that came up in a disability group I'm part of the other night, is that because it's not degenerative, hasn't been a lot of research into adulthood.
Yeah.
So the research that I've done, or what I'm learning about it, is only from lived experiences.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of medical journals or a lot of help on it. So it is going to be hard, because the amount of pain I'm in is getting worse, and my muscles are getting tired, and I'm getting like muscular atrophy and that sort of stuff.
So you can't do much to really fight against muscular atrophy once you get out, because it's just the wasting of the muscles and.
Yeah, but what I've learned is, so I try and keep the weight down.
Yeah.
So for me personally, what I've discovered with my CP, because cerebral palsy is different for everyone, is if I keep the weight down, but also keep some form of muscle, then it's a good place to be, and it'll be a bit easier. Because when I finished high school, I was quite overweight for someone my size.
Yeah.
Because I'm only like 5'7" or something, and I was in a lot of pain because the way I walked and how much weight I was carrying. But then I went too far the other way, and then lost a lot of weight, but had no muscle. So I wasn't able to walk in a good way, because there was no beneficial muscle helping me to carry my sore leg and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so you didn't have like a normal heel strike and everything, because you didn't have the normal muscle bulk you were having in your calves and hamstrings and quads and all that sort of stuff to make everything function normal. Yeah,
so I walk, my left foot goes straight down, and my right foot, which is a standard, like a normal foot, does the heel toe stuff, but without all the muscle I lost, it just I wasn't able to carry myself very well, and I lost my balance a lot, if that makes sense. So I've just found a good balance, I think, just sort of somewhere in between, with a bit of muscle gain, and make sure I exercise regularly
Yeah.
do a little bit of weights and stuff, you know.
Yeah. So you need to watch your diet in particular, and that sort of, really everybody should, but you have to like balance, be careful what you eat to avoid different sorts of foods, acidic stuff, or just like your normal dietary guidelines you should follow.
My stomach's pretty crazy. So I've got irritable bowel syndrome as well, which a lot of people with disability have, or like they have issues with their stomach. So I just sort of got to watch like super fatty foods or super spicy foods, and to basically it's fine as long as I just sort of be careful and have a diet in which I sort of eat the same things.
Yeah.
Generally.
So does stuff like alcohol and smoking, would they be inflammatory and make the cerebral palsy worse? So can it have an effect like that?
It could have. I don't smoke or drink. And the reason I don't do that is because if I turn up at an emergency department, which does happen every now and then, I find it's easy if I say I don't drink and smoke, then they can get to the issue quicker without having to check if the alcohol could have had an effect, because the medication I take and that sort of stuff. But I don't know particularly if that has an effect on everyone with cerebral palsy, but all I do know is that every day I wake up, I analyse my body to see if anything is wrong, and I do know that if I drink alcohol or smoke, then it makes me not able to analyse my body as well, so I just cut those out.
Yeah. That's probably a good way to manage everything anyway. So do you have like one doctor, regular doctor you see all the time, and they work through like management plans it is with you, or they pretty much just let you just go on a roll now on your own and you just see them once a year or whatever, just general checkups?
No, I see the doctor all the time. So I've got a GP that I've seen basically for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Who is my main like checkup person, and then I've got a pain management specialist and a physio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So do they get into like, is your physiotherapist into like the Chinese therapies? They obviously said deep tissue massage and that. Do they do acupuncture and or dry needling and all that sort of stuff, or they into like trying to do a lot of physical therapy stuff to make sure you're still walking and try to do like 7-4 to heel, strike heel toe and all that sort of stuff?
Look, it's mainly the second one. I go to a Thai massage person for the deep tissue, because I find that the Thai massage therapy is really beneficial. My pain specialist is the person who turned me on to Thai massage.
Yeah.
So I probably go to Thai massage once or twice a week.
Yeah.
My physio mainly is just helping me continue to learn to walk better.
Yeah.
So the main pain I get is from the way I walk.
Yeah.
And the physio also helps me, like I said before, I tear a lot of muscles.
Yeah.
And injure myself quite a lot. So they're the ones who help me when that comes up.
Yeah. So you need to have a podiatrist and that sort of stuff to help you work with your feet and the movement of your ankles and everything as well, or does that mainly just come under your physio, does all that sort of stuff?
It comes under the physio. I'm sure that if you ask me that question in 10 years, I'll have a different answer. But at the moment, my physio is doing a good job.
So in the groups you're in, so you're in some cerebral palsy groups on Facebook, what have you found out about like the numbers of people who get affected by cerebral palsy in the everyday community? Because I know they would be reasonably high, but to fall into like is it a rare disease group?
No, it's fairly common. So when I was young, they used to tell me that it was a person was born with CP every 18 hours.
Yeah.
It's one of the most common disabilities, which seems like a funny thing to be thankful for, but I am thankful for it because it definitely allowed things to be easy when I was a child. And my mum and my dad then were able to meet different people with CP and find out their experiences. But on the other side of that is when you tell someone I have cerebral palsy, or you have to mention it when you apply for jobs or something, people automatically jump they think that I have a carer and that I'm in a wheelchair. And so because people see it a lot, they make an automatic assumption and don't really see it from a wide point of view.
Yes, instead of having an open mind, they instantly think that you're not able to look after yourself and all those sorts of things. So that must be hard to live with, knowing that you're gonna, because you must know that walking into an interview, what are we going to get today? So what am I going to get? Or go and do something new, or go somewhere new, and what are these people going to be like here?
Yeah, it is really hard, and I think it's one of the reasons that why people with disabilities stay in jobs longer. I think when you find a job, and like the one I'm in now, I really like when you find a job and they find out that, you know, you're able to do A, B and C, and as a lot of us are, and you know, we have difficulties and the like, but we're able to do the job, and you just stay there because I don't want to go through it again.
Yeah.
Or go for a job at another school where they say, oh, you know, are you doing this just because you need a job? I'm doing it because I think I'm good at it, you know?
Yeah. So is having cerebral palsy, was that a motivating factor between you going to work with children with special needs and that stuff at school?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I used to be a full-time musician, so I've got a degree in music, and then I wanted a bit of change of pace. I've always wanted to work in disability education, and then schools. I just think that I have a unique point of view, and I want to be able to share that and be able to share that there are adults with disabilities to the children in the schools, because I didn't get that when I was a kid. Not because my parents kept it from me. It's just without social media, it was harder to sort of find people in the community. So I really wanted to be there for kids with disabilities and show them that I'm an adult and I've got a job, and you know, I've sort of making something of myself, and you know, and there are possibilities rather than just the ones that some people in society say.
But it's a good role model example to have. So, see, sometimes people get tired. Like I just said, in general public, people get tied up. Oh, poor me. Oh, look at that. Oh, I've got a flat tire today on my car or whatever. And there's just the whole scope of everything's a lot bigger. There's a lot more people who have a lot more different things going on, and I really feel like, in my experiences, people need to be. I feel like get a lot more out of life if you do something you can help someone else in their life. It's very fulfilling knowing that you've helped someone achieve something new or helped them overcome a barrier or obstacles in their life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I get home and it's certainly a hard job. But I get home and I feel like I've done something worthwhile. And my wife works in the same field. And it's just, we both get home and we might be exhausted, and there might be some really hard things that happen during the day, but you don't feel like you've just wasted your day, you know? Yeah.
So did you meet her in the field and teaching, or you met her outside of teaching?
No, we were playing. We met each other playing in the same band about 12 years ago. We were married for just over 3 years. So it's,
that's
going pretty well.
So far, it's all good.
Absolutely.
I saw the dogs were on the lounge before. They loved the lounge by the look of it. So
2 dogs as well. So it's going pretty well.
So if you could be a role model for young people and that stuff that are suffering from any form of disability or cerebral palsy or anything like, what would you like to tell young people about their struggle and that? Because I guess the biggest thing, even happened when I was younger, you feel like you're alone and people don't understand what you're going through. And this would have happened to probably everybody, but what would you say to someone that is suffering from something anything that makes them a little bit different from someone else? And
I think I would just say that it doesn't always have to end up the way that society tells you it's going to. That there are groups and there are people out there who are willing to show you a different way that you can live your life. I think my parents never said to me, "Oh, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that." They wanted me to give it a go. They wanted me to give rugby a go. They wanted me to give guitar a go. So it's just you may as well give something a go. And then if you find it hard, then just like keep on trying and try and see if there are people there who have had similar experiences.
Yeah.
And then just like reach out to someone if you need help. You don't have to go through it by yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's what I tried to do when I was younger. I was quite angry about having cerebral palsy. And then it's only when I sort of opened my eyes and realised how many people out there shared my experience that I felt stronger and more able to push through the things that I was finding hard. So I'd say don't try and go through it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like WWE wrestling and stuff, and I said John Cena does a lot of stuff for like Make-A-Wish Foundation and Starlight Foundation and stuff like that. And I think it's magnificent. He does stuff. Children with like terminal illnesses, but not just that, people with disabilities and disadvantaged from poor families and all that sort of stuff. It gives them a taste of another side of life they wouldn't get. I'd love to be able to see people do something like that. Do you think that would be beneficial for people like suffering from any sort of disabilities or anything like that?
I've seen that he does that. It's really good. I think that what's really good about that is that some people with disabilities, I think, are certainly sort of wrapped in cotton wool a little bit. And I think having different experiences like that could really like help them to see that there actually are different ways to do things or different experiences they could have. I just shared a video on Facebook the other day of a young kid called Caleb who has cerebral palsy. He uses a wheelchair and he's part of an AFL league.
Yeah.
And they've just figured out a different way for him to do that.
Yeah.
And he apparently finds that quite exciting because he can now call himself an AFL player.
Yeah.
And I just think like that sort of stuff's great. There's always a different way to do something,
Yeah. Have you ever tried to find out how many people got cerebral palsy and are playing like rugby union at like subbies level in Sydney or anything like that?
I've tried. I haven't had that much success. I've never met anyone else.
Yeah.
Most people with cerebral palsy play soccer because there's quite a successful sort of soccer international league with people with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
But since I'm half Kiwi, soccer's not.
Yeah. It's not right up the top of the list of things.
No, it isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just interesting to do that, because I know there are different sports out there. I'm in the process trying to chat to a couple of Paralympians coming up. One of them's a 19-year-old female athlete. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she picked up some silver medals at the 2016 Paralympics and stuff like that. So I want to ask her about her experiences and that as well. So because I think there's some really good role models going for young people who feel like they're alone and they've got no one who understands them. And I think the message you're giving out today is really good and very motivating for people. So what would you like to say just in general for the general public that might be watching this and they want to know more about it, or they see people with a disability or cerebral palsy, what would you like to get across to them?
I think what I'd like to get across is that I think just give us a go, and if you have questions, just ask. We'd rather be known, and we're proud to be disabled, but not we don't just want to be just disabled. Like we may be disabled, but we're also footy players or musicians or teachers or shop workers or anything like that. I think just give us a go and get to know us and give us a chance. It's like I said to someone that was part of the footy club last year, I have cerebral palsy, but I also just, when it comes down to Saturday, I just want to be my number on the team sheet,
Yeah.
We just want to be given a go, and often we might surprise you in the ways that we do things. They may be different, but we still get the job done.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Yeah, that's right. That's a really good message to pass out. Like, you're all part. At the end of the day, you're still all humans. Everyone's trying to achieve the same thing, and I see a lot of terrible things around the world. So, just in general, discrimination at all sorts of levels against all sorts of people, and just I don't really like. I like to try to see more acceptance brought into people. Particularly, people want to try something. If you've got any form of disability and you want to play a sport, come and give the sport a try. So there are people out there that will give you the opportunity, and I think you should do it and should have a go.
Yeah.
And anything you want to try in life, whatever it is. Yeah. So how are you going? So you're not playing this year because of head knocks and everything like that?
Yeah. So pre-season, it's interesting you bring that up. Actually, pre-season, there was a bunch of people that I hadn't met before, and I really wanted to impress them, and I did something I shouldn't have. And I decided to take the tackle bags and be, be there for people to practice their tackling on. And I didn't have enough, because I don't have a lot of core strength, so I got tackled backwards and just slammed my head on the ground. Yeah. And got knocked out, which was nobody's fault but mine.
Yeah.
So because I was worried that if I didn't look after it, that I would have more side effects from the head knock.
Yeah.
And I wanted to continue working because I think my work's really important. I just took this season off.
Yeah.
Because I was really proud of what I did last season, but I just don't want to rush back into it if it was going to have bad effects. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how did you go with managing did you have to go through the whole blue card protocol or?
No, it was because I never went back to training.
Yeah.
Sorry. It was okay. So I was a bit dazed and confused and can't really remember the week that I got knocked out.
Yeah.
But took precautions and my mother-in-law's, she's an emergency room doctor, so kept checking on me and everything's all right now. But
yeah, don't do what I do and keep playing when you're seeing white dots and you got ringing in your ears and all that sort of stuff and see 2 or 3.
My wife would kill me if I did that.
I think my wife would kill me too, but she hasn't yet. I'll sleep with one eye open, so. Oh, that's all good. So thanks very much for your time today, Nick. It's been insightful, and you've told me a lot of stuff I didn't know about cerebral palsy, and I think you're giving a good perspective across to just everyday, and kids in particular, young people, because I know, even though I didn't have that many problems, I just felt alone when you're younger. You just feel like you're on your own and you've got nobody there that understands who you are and what you're going through, nobody to talk to. So I really appreciate your story, and I think it's really good what you're doing, working with special needs kids, and it's even better that you're out there trying to have a go at sport and musical. I'm tone deaf. I got nothing music wise, so you're doing a lot better than me there straight off the bat. No worries. Thanks for your time, and I'll catch up with you again, Nick. So,
thanks, mate. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. So it'll be uploaded in a little while on Duckman TV, going on to YouTube. Keep on sticking by it. It'll go on podcast as well in the next couple of weeks. Keep on ducking. See you next time. Bye.